Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. This is your home for artisanal Bible study that is responsibly handled, locally sourced, and it's free of MSG and it's good for you. Although I keep saying I'm going to check that MSG thing out because I understand now that MSG is not bad for you again. So we'll find out if that's right or not. We're looking today at verses 8, 9, and 10 here in Psalm 36. And I am so glad that you've joined me today. I have been looking forward to this all week. This passage right here. How men are blessed. So this is how we apply everything that we've had so far in the Psalm. Psalm 36 began with David's conclusion about the wicked. There's no fear of God before their eyes. And then he describes the wicked in verse 2, 3, and in 4. Then we have that huge contrast right there in verse 5. Mercy. It's the first thing we have. The mercy of the Lord. See, men find themselves in verses 1 through 4. We find ourselves there. No fear. We're doing exactly what we want. We're embracing evil. And then suddenly we realize our condition and we turn to the Lord and we cry out to him. This poor man cried and the Lord heard him and delivered him out of all of his trouble. The mercy of the Lord is why that happens. God is merciful towards us, not based on what we've done, but based on who he is. He is merciful. And the mercy of the Lord is in the heavens. His faithfulness, his righteousness, his judgments, his loving kindness, all of that leads us, in verse 7, to put our trust under the shadow of his wings. So now we're going to look at 8, 9, and 10. Men are blessed by the Lord because, well, let's just read those verses. Beginning there in verse 8. They shall be abundantly satisfied with the fatness of thy house, and thou shalt make them drink of the rivers of thy pleasures. For with thee is the fountain of life, and in thy light shall we see light. O continue thy loving kindness unto them that know thee, and thy righteousness to the upright in heart. Here's how men are blessed by the Lord. Number one, he, that is the Lord, abundantly satisfies us with fatness of his house. So the children of men who are trusting in the shadow of his wings are abundantly satisfied. That is, they're abundantly satisfied in the Lord because mercy, faithfulness, righteousness, judgments, all are good, all are satisfying, all fill us in a way that nothing else can fill us. They give us a food that is satisfying. You notice he uses the word the fatness of thy house. Fatness, in the Psalms at least, is both good and bad. Sometimes the fatness is used to describe the wicked, that they're so fat, they're full, they're filled out, they're fleshy because of all the things that they've done. And then sometimes it's used to describe, and such as in this case, to describe the goodness of God, that there's fatness with the Lord. And, we esteem fatness in so many cultures today to be a bad thing because of the way it makes us look. It's a vain thing that we how we judge it. But in the Psalms, at least, fatness can be both good and bad. And here, it's used in a good way. This just means that the fullness of God's house satisfies us, and that fullness is described in those 3 verses that precede this: mercy, faithfulness, righteousness, judgment, loving kindness. And the Lord makes those men drink of the rivers of his pleasures. You'll notice verse 9, and here's where I said we had a shadow of the Lord Jesus, because in verse 9 we have, with thee is the fountain of life. In thy light we shall see light. We come back to John's gospel. This just reminded me of what John had to say in the first chapter of his gospel in verses 3, 4, and 5. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. So when David writes, "With thee is the fountain of life, in thy light we see light," well, we remember what John said about the Lord Jesus. In him was life. So there's that fountain of life. In thy light we see light. And in him was the life that was the light of men, John says there, and the light shines in darkness. So when David writes of this fountain of life and the light in which we see light, that is none other than the Lord Jesus, being referred to here, I believe, in the Psalter. So Jesus is the fountain of life. So he embodies all of this. He embodies God's mercy, faithfulness, righteousness, judgment, and loving kindness. Under the shadow of his wings we dwell when we trust in him. He is the light of the world. And then you'll notice verse 10, and with verse 10 I'll conclude here. "O continue thy loving kindness unto them that know thee." So remember, loving kindness, how excellent is thy loving kindness, O God? Well, we're finding out because we're trusting in him and we're enjoying that loving kindness. And David says, continue it. Continue the loving kindness unto them that know thee. Well, those are the ones who are trusting in him. Those are the ones who eschew evil. Those are the ones who fear God. And so, loving kindness is for those. Thy righteousness to the upright in heart. So continue thy loving kindness and continue thy righteousness. This is that imputed righteousness. It's not the righteousness of the men. It's the righteousness of their God. To the upright in heart. Can the wicked man have this? Absolutely. How does he get there? He comes through that mercy gate in verse 5. Thy mercy, O Lord, is in the heavens. Come through the mercy gate and find the Lord Jesus Christ. He is your life and the light of all men. Join me again tomorrow. We'll look at the prayer that David writes to conclude this 36th chapter here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.